Okay. Oh, I lost my voice. Okay. Welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. If you want to reach out to me for PI work, OppermanInvestigations@gmail.com. Otherwise, if you want to get a hold of me about the show, it's OppermanReport@gmail.com. Or you can go to the website, OppermanReport.com, and there's a contact button there. And a dusty old donate button, as one of my friends on Facebook was saying. Otherwise, Patreon, if you like what you hear on Monday or Friday, AM/FM radio on Patreon, you can hear over at Patreon with the ads and the commercials cut out. I know everybody loves to complain about the ads. You got nothing else to do with your life. I complain about the Opperman Report ads. Oh, that pays me, keep me going. Take that away too. No soup for you, Opperman. Okay. So what do you go? You go to Patreon if you want to go to Patreon. I got a brand new show up on Patreon right now called with the Shane Cashman, who's this podcaster. His podcast is called Tales from the Inverted World. Taped with him yesterday. Nice guy, okay? Really nice guy. We got along fine. He's in the mix with Kanye West and a bunch of these Nazis. Who's that guy? You know that guy, I forget his name, but Candace Owens, Tim Pool, all these characters, and it seems like he was affected by COVID. He saw the COVID, hygiene and conditions, and it sent him over the edge. He went into conspiracy land, and now he's in with characters like Alex Jones and Ian Carroll. But he seems to be such a sincere guy, And I was very frank with him. I said, what about Tim Pool in Russia? What about Alex Jones and saying its performance art? What about this? What about that? It was very wasn't holding back. What about Kanye? All this stuff. Didn't hold back on anything. Wasn't rude or anything like that. We just didn't hold back. And it's just. And I even asked him toward the end. I says, where do who do you look up to historically? Who do you come out of? Like Dave Emery and Mae Brussels, Alex Constantine, John Judge, John Barber, Mort Soul, Dick Gregory, Paul Krasner, have you heard of these people? I don't know. I've never heard of them. He heard of Dave McGowan, and I said, hey, I have to do Dave McGowan many times. I'm saying to your shows. And he's interested in hearing the shows. He contacted me after the interview. But it's just like, these certain people, and I'm not saying this about Cashman, but like Ian Carroll, I've been very open about my suspicions about him, just come out of nowhere. They're usually elevated overnight. Ian Carroll, supposedly he's doing all this research from Google. Oh, look, here, I'm on the website. I click here. He shows you what he's doing. That's groundbreaking work. He has incredible abilities there where he clicks that button on that mouse. And then, but the guys, how much time could he be devoting to all his wonderful, wunderbar research, his anti-Semitic research, when he's spending all his other time, trimming his beard and his mustache and getting the lighting right, and picking out the right, funky shirt, to wear it, and getting his hair just right so it doesn't look like he's combing his hair and getting ready for the show. You know what I mean? That takes the lighting, the sound, all that stuff takes so much time and effort to get to that kind of polished coverage he's doing. Where does he have time to do all this other research unless somebody's dropping it in his lap? So anyway, that's my my beef there. And I got to tell you something else. He wrote this book, Mr. Cashman, Good Villains, My Journey to the Front Lines of Fame, Controversy, and the War on Reality. And I got to tell you something else. Not to take anything away from Mr. Cashman. Nice guy, Shane Cashman, ShaneCashman.com. Buy his book. Buy 2 books to make me feel better. But I got to tell you, man, I just hired a new assistant. I'm working on a big project here. And as we're working on things, things come up. Names come up. Things come up. And let me tell you, blah, 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 the next thing, all this stuff I've been involved with. Personally, first-hand involvement in all this stuff. That's, most of my stuff is like 100 times more involved and elaborate than any of my guests. Than any guest. Like I would almost feel ashamed to come on here and write a book about, all this stuff and say, who's going to want to read my little silly book? But, I don't know, man. Like, people come on here with a book, just like my part of my life, the smuggling part, the Epstein part, just a little some Tiger Woods case, And people write a whole book just about one of them, I guess I'm getting off topic. I'm really tired right now. We've been working really hard on this new project, but they're getting a lot done. Guys, we are getting a lot done. And there's a lot of good things coming up in our future here. So besides Patreon, you can go to every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We do 3 hours of brand new podcast content. And that is a 1 hour solo like I'm doing now. And then 2 hours of brand new podcast interview content. Let me see if that helps. How's that? And tonight, coming up after this live portion, I'm going to be talking about a lot of stuff you're not going to hear anywhere else. That other hosts and podcasters and YouTubers and Tweeterites, we should call it, right? Meteorites, Tweeterites. Just wouldn't have their life experience to know what I'm telling you. Well, that's what you're getting tonight from me for free. But tonight, after this show, the legendary Dave Emery. I wonder if I had a stroke or something that's affecting my speech. I'm in a lot of trouble with my speech lately. I'm stuttering, fumbling with my tongue. Now that I draw attention to it, everybody's going to notice, but okay. Let's just quit. Let's just quit the show. What do you call it? Legendary anti-fascist radio, 47 years, Dave Emery. Spitfirelist.com. Check out his Patreon. I taped with him about Anna Paulina Luna and ancient aliens and UFOs and her hearings about the MK Ultra and JFK assassinations, and her upcoming one about JFK or RFK assassinations, which is going to have another former guest of ours, Lisa Peace, on there. There's no way on earth that Anna Paulina Luna has not listened to this show. I was on 1400 or 1490, I forgot what it was, WPPR Radio, 1400, 1440, 1490, something like that, every night, 5 nights a week, for a good 6 or 7 years in Florida, in her district. And all these people she's bringing on her hearings are all people that have been guests on my show. There's only like one that hasn't been a guest on my show, Oliver Stone. Okay? All the others we've had. So, me and Dave have a few bones to pick about Ms. Luna. There's a lunatic. I have on my Patreon a recording of her talking to a fellow Republican primary candidate, and he's talking on about Ukrainian hit squads and $600 billion in Illuminati, Bavarian Illuminati money. And guy wound up getting 3 years in prison for threatening his opponent. And she's on the phone with this guy, talking to this guy like he's normal. I wouldn't entertain a phone call like that, even if I was taping it to give to the cops or whatever. I just wouldn't do it. Give me 1 second here. Oh, yeah, we're back. I feel we were talking about Anna Paulina Luna, I guess it was. Then we have also two coming up tonight is Jeremy Kuzmarov, who's from Covert Action Magazine, who just came out with this great book. Let me pull this up. Political Assassinations in America, the Intricate Nexus of Deep State Crime. Good old Jeremy has learned not to have these long titles anymore. He's learned to shorten his titles. So that's Political Assassinations in America, Jeremy Kuzmarov. He's the editor of Covert Action Magazine, which is gold. It can't beat the gold standard of Covert Action Magazine, going back to Philip Agee in the 70s, former CIA whistleblower. And always great content there on good. And we mentioned, give a tip of the hat to John Potash, our mutual friend, who writes some articles for them. And, didn't talk about doing assassinations and stuff. Well, I tell you, Well, again, too, me and Jeremy, with a couple of disagreements. We got into some new. He gave me some new information I had never heard before. A lot of stuff, but one was Gary Webb. Once again, I'm still when I first did interviews and shows about Gary Webb. And spoke to people that knew him, and I looked up the family and the autopsy reports and all this stuff like that, and this whole business about the 2 gunshot wound suicide, that people think it's impossible to have a second gunshot wound suicide, where it's really common. It's almost as much as 8% to have a successful suicide where you die to have a second gunshot. And if you read the autopsy, it went through it missed the brain, the first one. He was able to pull off another trigger. So it's 2 gunshot suicides are definitely possible, and then we don't even get into how many single shot unsuccessful suicides. The guy chickens out. He can't. His hand is inoperable. He can't fire a second shot. There's always 2 you have to add into the equation too. And then we had another guest on our show, Tony Spurl, who talks about how he's watched a suicide right in front of him, and the guy actually, after he shot himself in the head, put the gun down on the table. That's his story. Who knows? Maybe somebody else is older than I got. Who knows? But this whole thing to make the Gary Webb thing about 2 gunshots is impossible, and it had to be suicide. That's off the table. Okay, and then people aren't satisfied with that. They say, well, it was 2 shots to the back of the head with a shotgun. That's all nonsense. It was a revolver to the side of the head, 2 shots. And the first one missed the brain. That's what both autopsies say. The autopsy and the autopsy opinion of the autopsy photos. There was going to be a second actual physical autopsy that was, the family was talked out of it by someone we all know, and interesting too that, and not with, I don't think with Kuzmarov, but other folks I've been talking to lately about Gary Webb, when I try to share with them other information I've had, that they're so convinced that it had to be a murder and not a suicide, then I share with them other information I have. It's solid information. They've never heard it, so, what do you want? What do you, okay, what are you going to do? So Jeremy Kuzmarov, great content with him. The book, once again, is called Political Assassinations, The Intricate Nexus of Deep State Crime. Always a good guest, Jeremy. And then after that will be Dave Emery talking about Anna Paulina Luna and her crazy hearings and about ancient aliens and all her stuff and her wild content. Get to the old notes here. Get some work done. Okay. I got those things set up there. Let's start with the National Enquirer. I am in this week's, if you go to the stands, the supermarket right now, I'm in the National Enquirer. The cover story is Epstein Pimp Murdered by Israeli Spies. He begged to testify, then turned up dead. Photos, tapes, and diaries identify handlers, fixers, payoffs, and powerful men who abuse young girls. Now, the guy's name is Daniel Siad. Okay, he's from French. He died in France. Okay, now this guy is all over the Epstein files. I think there's 1,800 files, and his name turns up 1,800 times. There's actual emails with him talking to Epstein saying, hey, I got 2 13-year-old girls for you that you can have as hostesses for your event over there. So, the guy's dirty as you can get, okay? Pimpster is as pimpsters come, okay? Now, my involvement with this, I never heard of this guy, all right? Never heard his name, never saw it. By the way, too, he died, I think, was 69 years old. And all the pictures you see of this guy, when people are trying to make you convinced that it's a murder, Israeli Mossad murder, they show pictures of him from 20 years ago. Okay, he looks nice and young and healthy. But if you see pictures of him recently, he didn't look that good. Okay, and trust me, people who lived hard partying lives die at 69. That's not unusual. Okay. Yeah, I've been working out my whole life. I'm in pretty damn good shape, but I almost died. All right. I did some hard partying, too. Okay. So this guy was under my radar, as they like to say. All right. Fine. Then, a couple of days before he dies, I start seeing him all over social media. What the hell's going on here? Who's this guy? What? And pick the same montage, collage, the same collage of pictures, too. Being reused over and over again. And then about 2-3 days later, he's dead. And now it's all over. It's, another Epstein. No, when something like that happens, man, my phone rings off the hook. Everybody wants to get the, what do you know, Ed? What gossip do you know? What kind of, you heard of this guy before? Everybody wants to talk to me to see what I have to say. Now, and my quotes are out there. Sometimes they're anonymous and sometimes they're unsourced. But with AMI, they use my name sometimes. And sometimes they'll pass it on to other publications, too, without using my name. So it's out there. And now with this, they used an old quote about how, a lot of people, around Epstein are dead. They're all involved with money. And they wanted me to say, I thought it might be Mossad. They're pushing Mossad, right? And front page headline that it's Israeli spies killed this guy. There's no evidence Israeli spies. By the way, when you see me quoted in an article, or there's even a CNN thing I was quoted in too, I have no control of what the rest of the article says. Will you see quotes around what I say? That's what I said. Otherwise, I contacted them and said, hey, make a correction. And I'll tell you, I've done in the past, people have misquoted me, and I made a correction. I said, this is what I said to them. I showed you a whole paragraph. And they used on Crazy Live. Okay? So I have no control over the rest of the article, the publication, or the title, or any kind of stuff. I don't think Epstein's pimp was murdered by Israeli spies. I have no suspicions of that whatsoever. Not even close. Okay? And then what turns out, after this National Enquirer is a pro-Trump publication. Okay? And after it comes out, what do we find out? That this guy Siad, Daniel Siad, was running a pro-Trump bot Twitter account, where he was posting pro-Trump stuff under anonymous names, a sock puppet account. Okay? This guy's a Trump guy. Now, I do know that he was begging to testify. This guy did want to cooperate. This guy did want to testify. Now he's dead. That says something to me, but it doesn't say to me that Israeli spies did it. Who did he have information on? Who could he hurt that has the power to do this, that has presidential immunity to get away with all this kind of stuff? That's what I would be taking a look at if I were a suspicious fellow. So that's what's going on with this fellow here, Daniel Siad. This is one to keep an eye on. Out of all the ones you see all over the time about the murders, it's suspicious suicides. This one I would be suspicious about. We don't even know his cause of death yet, as far as I know, as far as the taping of the show. And these pictures are 20 years old, so that's another thing too. And he was in talks to testify. Okay, I know that too. So that's where we go with that, man. All right. Let's see if I got any other notes on this guy, because it is important. This is one of those important ones. Okay, Mossad, Nation Enquirer. Okay. All right, the next big one we want to attack tonight. By the way, I got a big thing going. I got a big interview coming up tomorrow with a legit Epstein survivor, not one of these, maybe ones. Mostly keeps a low profile. She's one of the earliest ones, too, to come out. And she's lobbying all over Capitol Hill to get this Todd Blanche to squash his nomination, okay, his confirmation, which it looks like he's going to get confirmed. She's on top of counting all the votes and stuff like that. So there we are with that. Let me see. I hope my audio is okay. Let me see. Okay, it looks okay. Okay, what's that? All right, nothing. So I'm taping with her tomorrow. We had a great conversation today about a lot of stuff, man. All right? Very rarely do I get someone involved in all this Epstein stuff that actually knows what they're talking about and has information, and someone who kind of has information and they don't realize how important it is. Okay? Because there's a lot of stuff she said to me that was very important information. One thing is how I always talk about how their plan was to take all that stuff in the Epstein files, like that Dan Ferry, the limo driver, and all those wild phone calls and reports and stuff like that. And she talks about when she saw that 1-800 number there in 2019 that on that press conference saying, hey, call in with your information. She called in, and they buried her information, but yet they elevate these other crazy people that are clearly crazy. And I also told her in our conversation, too, and I don't think I'm talking out of turn here or betraying confidences. It wasn't recorded. It's about these congressional hearings and stuff, and how the congressmen don't even know what's going on. They're not. They're out of the loop. They don't understand what's going on. And I explained to her about that witness that I got before oversight and how they didn't even know how she wound up there or what the importance of her testimony was. So, it's very rare. It feels good to talk to somebody you can just kind of tell right away they're legit, they got no agenda, they're sincere, they're honest with me, and they're just sharing information off the top of their head without practices. It's not it's stuff that rings has that ring of truth to me, and confirms other things that I've been thinking or worried about, like this whole business about what I've been saying lately about how people are paying to get their names redacted from the files. In our conversation, because we were just going back and forth so rapidly. That was one of the things I want to tell you. What you just said to me confirms that I think that they're redacting. People are paying to redact information. So I'm taping with that shortly, and you'll probably hear it next week. It's a huge resource going forward. A lot of good stuff going forward. I'm starting a new company tomorrow, a new business. We're creating an LLC. On Lionsgate 8/8. Supposed to be a good day for starting new projects. So I'm going to do it tomorrow. Partially doing it today too. So very, very excited about projects in my life, the new help that I've got, new resources that are coming into my life every day, new sources of investigative tools and resources and stuff. Things are going good. Things are going good, guys. I'm really confident and happy with the way things are going. And it makes me confident too to see how my enemies and my detractors are kind of flailing around trying to like a mosquito biting the ass of an elephant. There's very little effect of what they're having, and to see that they're so ineffective. So I'm very, very my resources just grow every day. It's just very, very encouraging. I'm feeling very encouraged. Okay. So National Enquirer, new Epstein survivor. Okay, is a more elaborate one. Tate brothers are being held down in Miami at FDC, Federal Detention Center in Miami, a federal pretrial holding. Now, this jail has a lot of it's a notorious jail. It's one of these old jails. It's not in Miami, the heat of Miami. Right now, it's so hot. And they have a lot of issues at FDC in Miami that are well-known issues for a long time. There's issues with rotten food. There's issues with spoiled food. There's issues, the big one is probably the air conditioning and how they have these portable air conditioning units that are very loud and they're ineffective. They break down. There's all these problems with FTC. Okay, there's problems with visits. There's all kind of problems. Okay, and the inmates there will often protest and go to the media and complain about the problems. So we see this fellow who's representing the Tate brothers. His name is McBride. Now, he was a former law partner of Roy Black. And I think I might have talked about this last week, but it helps to repeat it because a lot of people don't pay attention. So if you're one of those people that hang on every word, I apologize. But this fellow McBride worked with Roy Black. Now, Roy Black worked on the Epstein defense. He was part of the negotiations, and then later on, he was part of the plea negotiations, penalty negotiations, and then after the conviction, when that other lawsuit came up, which was a really solid lawsuit where the victims sued the Victims' Rights Agency there, Victims' Advocacy Agency, and says, hey, we were never notified, we want to sue you. And the judge says, yeah, you're right, you win this lawsuit, but there's really no damages, so good luck, we'll see you around. Okay? Right? You know what I mean? So, that's a very successful, if you're the attorney and you lost that lawsuit but they get no money, that's a win in the legal world. Okay? A lot of people, we thought, oh boy, this is a great win for us, but no, it was a win for them. But mostly importantly, Roy Black's role in this Epstein saga was that he is the guy who hired all the private investigators. Private investigators who were contacting witnesses and intimidating witnesses and intimidating prosecutors, investigating all kinds of stuff. Some heavy-handed PI work that many would consider unethical and improper. There was even some complaints were filed. Okay, during this melee, this milieu, as Mr. Emery would love to say. You'll hear it tonight many times. Milieu. He loves that word. So that's where Roy Black comes in. Roy Black has a history with the Epstein case. He has a history of being heavy-handed with the Epstein people. Roy Black also, for a short period of time, represented Joe Francis from Girls Gone Wild against similar child trafficking charges. Okay, now his partner here, because Roy Black just died. He's one of those 24 deaths that the National Enquirer thinks is suspicious. The guy was like 90 years old. Okay. Yeah, we got another 20 years left over there. Okay. And they probably used pictures of him, too, from 20 years ago. McBride now is representing the Tate brothers. And it seems to be like he's dropped all of his other clients, and now he's just representing them 24 hours a day. He's on Twitter constantly, podcasts, interviews, that's all. I go visit them every day, all this stuff. So he comes out, and he says, the Tate brothers are being mistreated in FTC in the shoe, okay? And they got a target on their backs because people are calling them like Epstein. Yeah, I have to go down there every day and check for proof of life. So you got a lawyers coming and showing up to jail just to see if you're alive every day. Okay. It's not for the press. It's not for the press conference, whatever. He goes there. And even he couldn't come up with the reasons why he was going there to see him every day. Well, proof of life, but also to go over legal papers, legal strategy. Dude, the legal papers are dime. Okay? He's filing for a bail hearing. Okay. You get one shot at that. And what more do how much can you throw into that? It's, they're going to lose that anyway. There's such a flight risk, and there's no touching it, But, so his latest thing this morning was, first he's talking about how bad the conditions are, right? And he doesn't talk about the air conditioning. He doesn't talk about the food. He doesn't talk about the noise from he doesn't talk about any of those things. He's saying, why don't they have a chair in their housing, in their cell? That they don't have a chair. That they have no access to the internet to contact the outside world. Again, that would be rare. It was extremely unusual to have that. So the things he's complaining about are things that no inmate in there is getting. I don't think in any federal detention on people who have a chair in their cell. I never even heard of a chair in a jail. Even the chairs when you're out there in the dormitory, out there in the pod, they call it. People when they walk around in circles over there, and where all the lunch or breakfast tables are. Even those chairs are bolted down. Okay. In fact, they would have to be, because otherwise you couldn't bring them out. People would bring them to their cell if you could pick up those chairs, okay? So there are no chairs. I don't think in the whole building there's a chair that's not bolted down. But Mr. McBride wants you to think that it's somehow they're being deprived of a chair. And they're being deprived of communications. You know what that tells me? That they got no problem with their food. That they got no problem with their air conditioning. They got no problem with their visits. They got no problem with these other issues that every other inmate in there is on record complaining about for years. Mr. McBride does not bring up one of those issues. Now, I've been arrested a couple of times. Okay, all right. You know my story. All right. And back in Staten Island, when I would get arrested, my lawyer was a very powerful lawyer. Okay. He was a very... My lawyer was one of these guys who got the judges elected. Okay, he got the prosecutor, the DA appointed. Okay, he got other lawyers disbarred. Great guy. I loved him. And I was 19 years old when I met him. Okay. So I had certain privileges. One time I was being charged with contempt of court, and the detective who was arresting me picked me up in his personal car, and he drove me down into the jail with no handcuffs and stuff like that. Took me in there, And then when it was time for me to come out for the hearing, I was just allowed to just walk out and and open up the door and see the courtroom, And it was funny too, because even insult to injury, the prosecutor in that case was a friend of mine too. I guess I open up this door with no jail guard to take me through the hallway there. Go through there, Ed. Okay, and I open up the door and I look around. I didn't even know it was the door to the courtroom. And I look around, I see my buddy there, Rich LaRosa, and then I see my other buddy over there, the prosecutor, who I knew him. We had socialized together because my girlfriend used to date his best friend. So it was a very a small community of people. Staten Island's a club. If you're not out there, doing nothing. And they arraigned me without my fingerprints coming back. The computers were down. They couldn't. My fingerprints coming down. My lawyer says, "Your Honor, I promise you will be here tomorrow morning. Don't make my client sleep overnight." So there's things your lawyer can do for you. Okay, there's things if you got a powerful lawyer, you got a expensive lawyer. There's things they can do. Now McBride, he's got a certain juice with the legal system, and even with the jail where he's always down there visiting clients over and over. You get to know people. They need a favor. My sister needs a good divorce lawyer. Who do you hook up? Well, I'll hook you up. Don't worry. Oh, Christmas time, you give them a bottle of scotch, whatever, to smooth things over. That's all normal. But even a guy like McBride doesn't have the juice to get them into special housing and special food and rooms with air conditioning. All right? He's never going to get him a chair. He's never going to get him a cell phone in there at this stage of the game. Okay? There is certain communication devices you can have. It takes a while to get that, though. You would need a lot of juice to get that. And everyone said, what are you talking about? He's posting these tweeting from jail. I think that's McBride tweeting for him. Okay? So, I think this is clear proof and evidence that the Tate brothers, not that they're being mistreated in this jail. I think they're getting special treatment. They're getting better treatment. They're not worried about the food. They're not complaining about the air conditioning. They're not complaining about the normal things people complain about. They want a chair, which no one has. Okay? It tells me that they're getting special treatment at this federal detention center, Miami. And it also tells me, from my experience, that Mr. McBride doesn't have the juice to pull that off. He don't have it. All right? It would have to be like a Roy Cohn to know federal judges and the attorney general to get that kind of stuff. Maybe they do know Pam Bondi, Pam Bondi and all that. Maybe they do. I don't know. But I don't think he has the juice to pull that off. That means there is someone down the line, up the line, at the Department of Justice, at the Bureau of Prisons, that's smoothing things out for the Tate brothers. Okay? Just saw a tweet today from Mr. Tate. He's talking about some, he was talking about Fauci. Oh, Mr. Fauci, he should be thrown in jail for taking the Fifth Amendment, and he should be my cellmate. I'm very lonely. And then he posts a picture of Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate on two sides bookends, right? It's two sides of a table, and they're smoking their cigars, and their pictures are in color. Between them are two pictures in black and white, or grayscale, of Elon Musk, and one of Mr. President Donald Trump, with his finger up to his lips, making the silent gesture. Has nothing to do with Fauci. Has nothing to do with being lonely in jail. He's sending a message to Elon Musk. Well, he's not even involved in this at all. Well, out in the public. The Tate brothers are sending a message. If that's not a message of blackmail, And I know I'm not the expert on blackmail like some other people are. Okay, these other experts, Twitter idiots, who are experts on blackmail and how all that stuff works. I just know, a little bit about blackmail. Having worked on blackmail cases, being accused of blackmail, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so to me, man, if that is not a blackmail shot across the bow to Elon Musk, hey, we know something about you, and Mr. Trump, with your little silent finger up against your lips there, we know something about you. That's the Tate brothers, man, showing their muscle. All right. Now, there's another thing that's been going. This Mr. McBride has tweeting day and night and day for the Tate brothers. This is his only client right now. All he's working on. If I was sitting in jail and this guy's my lawyer, I'd be pissed off. Okay, and also too, he's not making any friends with his Tate brothers too, behind bars. People, you come off like a pussy if you're complaining about, your treatment. Oh, they're not getting royal treatment in jail. Man, when the other people in there are going to look and see, hey, they are getting royal treatment. Well, what's going on here? So McBride goes on in the last 24 hours now, and his latest claim is that he hasn't been allowed to see his client since July, which is just the other day. Like 4 days I haven't seen my client. Okay, well, no defense attorney is visiting their client every day, unless you're like OJ and they were sending in paralegals to sit there with you just so you get out of your cell, get in air conditioning, and that kind of stuff. OJ didn't have special treatment like this. Okay, I know he didn't. But Mr. McBride has been going down there pretty much every day to visit them, and he's complaining. He's saying, when I get there, they tell me that there's no visits, there's lockdowns, there's a count, and there's no visits, right? Well, first of all, okay, being on a legal defense team that has to go visit the jail, go visit your client in jail, especially nowadays, they have websites and apps on your phone. You can look and check and see, are there any disruptions to visiting hours, to the legal visiting hours? Because lawyers are pretty much allowed to visit anytime they want, but there are certain times when you can't. And in this federal detention center, then they're in Miami, 4 o'clock is their count. Every inmate has to be counted. They bring them all out, they count them, or they come by their cells and they put everybody in the cells and they go by the cells and count them, and they count every single person. There's a count. That happens every day. There's a count. Sometimes some places have 2 or 3 counts a day. Okay, but there's a count. Okay, and when there's a count, you can't have a visit with your lawyer because you have to be counted. Okay, that's not a conspiracy against the Tate brothers. That's just how that works. All right, but so to prevent a $10,000 an hour lawyer, okay, from showing up at the jail and saying, "Oh, here I am. It's a count." What do you mean? It's all on the website. Hey. Or there's other issues. There's security lockdowns. They lock down for every stupid thing you can imagine. Okay. A plastic fork. Okay. If an inmate is eating breakfast and he takes his plastic fork back to his cell with him, there's a lockdown and account for that. Okay. Until that fork is returned. All right. Little things like that. So lockdowns are very, very common, and that'll be on the website too, so you don't waste your time and go down there during a lockdown. Now, the Tate brothers are causing lockdowns. Their buddy outside there is flying a drone in front of their cell window, and then there's a lockdown on the thing. I think he even got arrested for it. Okay, so you can't create lockdowns and then complain that I can't visit my client because there's a lockdown, especially when you could avoid going to the jail in the first place if you just went to the website and looked and saw there was a lockdown. All right. Okay, I hope I'm making sense here. And listen, I'm a defense investigator. I'm a criminal defense investigator. I'm for the defendant. Everybody should have a fair trial. I'm 100% for all that. But come on, man. Don't treat me like a fool. Don't play me for a sucker, man, like I'm a stupid idiot. I don't like that. Let's see what else came out this week. Capital One says it closed 300 Trump accounts over money laundering concerns. Now, there's many ways that you would use credit card accounts to launder money. Okay? Now, with Trump, one of the ways is if you want to pay somebody, right, and you don't want any record of that transaction, you don't want to have them legally on your payroll, you don't want to show up payroll taxes, you don't want to issue a 1099, you want to avoid all that kind of stuff, that there's any kind of a trail of them working for me. Well, you can give them cash. Okay, and then what do? You drive over there every day and bring them a bag of cash, and drive over every week, bring them a bag of cash? You don't want to do that. You can give them a credit card. I can give you a credit card, make you an authorized user on my account, and then you spend that money as, there's a limit on it, $1,000, $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month, and, you spend that as much as you want, and I pay the bill. Now, you're not legally my employee. You're using a card, and I just happen to be paying it. There's no IRS. No way to track that down. No one's keeping track of that. Nowhere. Okay? That's if I make you an authorized user. Now, there wouldn't even be, the credit card company would know about that, but not even there would be no 1099, there's no gift tax, no nothing. That anybody else would know the credit report would know that you're an authorized user on my card, but who else is looking at that? It's so hard to get your credit report. But let's say I don't even went to that step. I don't even make you an authorized user. I just give you my card and have my name on it. Just use the number. Use it for Uber Eats, use it for, what do you call it, Domino's Pizza, use it for a hotel room, whatever you want. Yeah, use that card with my name on it, and I'll pay the bill every month. Okay, then there's no trail, right? That could be somebody I'm bribing to keep quiet. That could be somebody who I want to keep control over. So it's a sex trafficking person that I'm trafficking and controlling. All kinds of ways. Now, one of the things I was telling somebody how they do I remember I had Janet Phelan on the show. And she was talking about, she was all excited about how she knew this system they were using, where the judges in a case would take a second mortgage, and then the way they would get bribed is they take out the second mortgage, they take that cash, they put it in their bank, they spend it, they play with it, they go to Atlantic City, whatever they want, and then the lawyer or the defense attorney or whoever's bribing the judge will then pay off that mortgage. They'll make monthly payments, 6-month payments. They pay it off in a year, pay it off in one payment. Right? There's no trail of that. No one can tell where that money's coming from. It's perfectly loaded, and nothing suspicious. Where'd that money show up in your bank account? Came from a second mortgage. Okay. How to get paid off? Well, little payments here. And there's no record of that. There was even, I think, with the Bidens and buying a truck with the brother-in-law and nonsense. All kind of, there's ways to do this stuff, all right? And I remember Janet Phelan was so excited that she knew this information. And as soon as she started talking, I said, "Oh yeah, I know how that works." It's an old, everyone knows, especially in Staten Island, everybody knew this. Okay. But one thing, too, is that we talked about during that period of time is, remember the Murdaugh family, in Georgia down there? The guy killed his wife and his son, and then he went to prison. He said he was on 60, Oxycontin a day or whatever it was. And I said to you in that case, I said the DA and the prosecutor and the judge are all getting those mortgages. And then he lost. He gets convicted. But what happens is, now he got a new trial. It's not always, a bribe is not always that you get a not guilty verdict. Many times you get a guilty verdict, but there's an opening. They create an error for appeal where you can get the guilty verdict washed away. And I think you're going to see that with Mr. P. Diddy, okay? I think the prosecutors in the P. Diddy case put some things in there that he can get overturned in appeal, and he'll get his guilty verdict overturned, and he won't even have a guilty verdict. Now, he's getting peanuts on the time. He's getting away with murder, probably, literally, okay? But just those automatic weapons charges alone, the guy should have got like 20 years that he was never charged with. Defaced, fully automatic rifles on his property there, in his possession. Give me a break, man. That's 20 years, probably for each one, Which and there's no reason for him to have defaced, because he could have got them legally. There's no reason, except for, he's up to no good. But he was never charged with that. Okay, another friend of Mr. Trump. So many ways to use credit cards for money laundering. To overpaying the card is a way to get cash in there. Even if you want to raise your credit limit with a card, some cards will let you pay more than what the outstanding balance is. So you'll have a negative balance on the card. So that if you let's say you have a $10,000 limit on your card, but you want a $20,000 limit on your card. So you pay $11,000, $15,000. Now there's a negative balance on your card. You have more money and still raise your credit limit to meet that balance after a while. Now some cards won't let you overpay. So what you do then is you go to Amazon. This is even better for people with small credit limits. They got a $1,000 limit, $3,000 limit, right? Like most of us have. I have 10,000, but most people have like $3,000 limits, right? And you want to raise that $3,000 limit to $5,000. I'll tell you what to do. Okay, you go to overpay it, and they say we don't accept more money. You can only pay what you owe us. But you know what you can do? You go to Amazon. You use that card to buy something on Amazon. Then you go back, you pay off the rest of the card that day, and then you get a return from Amazon. Amazon does a return to your card. So now your card with a $3,000 limit, if you bought an e-bike or something like that, now has a $5,000 available limit on it. So there's all kinds of ways you can launder money using credit cards and getting back money. And I'm sure Trump wasn't doing that. I think what he was using his card was we're paying people under the table, okay, and the money laundering in that way. Okay, he probably had a bunch of authorized users on all these cards, and he was making the payments on them. That's what I think was going on. Now, but also too, there's all kind of ways to using credit cards and merchant payment processing accounts to launder money and to launder cash into digital or check form transactions that you can deposit and wire without the suspicious transaction forms coming up. And credit cards would be a way to do that too as well. To transfer money, if you have, $25,000 limits on there, $50,000 limits. Because we saw how Trump, this Stormy Daniels thing with Michael Cohen, that he had Michael Cohen take out a home equity loan on his own property and use his own money. And then when he paid him back plus the taxes that he would have paid for receiving the money. So Trump and Weisselberg, they're all very, very creative on how to use this money. So they probably came up with the ways to manipulate these credit cards, 300 accounts that I can't even dream of or I haven't thought of. And there's probably many, many ways. But it's bad enough that Capital One would close his accounts because, there's money laundering going on. There's a President of the United States. That would be such a huge scandal. Just imagine if that was Obama or Clinton. It would be all over the news. It would be a 24-hour news story. So there's that too. Now also too, the J.P. Morgan Chase have been up to their necks in all this Epstein stuff, and a lot of that stuff, Offenberg testified in that. And the cases down in U.S. Virgin Islands. But don't forget, look up J.P. Morgan Chase cocaine ship. Okay, I had Hopsicker, Daniel Hopsicker, on the show. That J.P. Morgan Chase had an investment fund that owned a container ship that had like 200 tons of cocaine on it. So J.P. Morgan Chase is up to a lot of stuff, man, and they're doing all kinds of business deals with Epstein, and there's all kind of, and their president of their company too is all shady. She's the one that's all over the place. So when we see them doing all this other stuff, there's no way we can consider that they're not also involved in drug smuggling. It appears that Epstein was up to his neck in all kind of shenanigans, money laundering, smuggling, and things, sulfuric acid purchases and things of a bizarre nature, and over the amount that he would need to use to desalinate his water there and clean his systems down there. So there's all kind of stuff going on here, man, with money laundering and all this kind of shenanigans. There's way more signs of money laundering and other activities like that than there are of blackmail. I don't see any blackmail, Let's see how we're doing on time here. What is this? I deal with the stupidest things. You have no idea. It's okay. The genuine entertainment. Okay. Okay. All right. We're out of time. Coming up after this will be first Jeremy Kuzmarov about assassinations, political assassinations. Great content there. A lot of stuff you're not going to know before. The new stuff you're not going to have heard before. And then we have Dave Emery talking about Anna Paulina Luna and the lunatic, that nut, who seems to be interviewing all these people who've been on my show. A bunch of nuts, too, some of them. Okay, not interviewing. She's having them testify. So good old Anna Paulina Luna. Jeez. We got her up there, too. Anyway, otherwise, with the good old Ed Opperman, things are going pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good these days. Some of the projects we're working on could make a ton of money, okay? And some of the other work that I do, you know, for these advocate for these exposing Epstein, things like that's moving along well, too. My different work there, opposition research, which is expanding too as well, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm feeling pretty good these days, guys. You know, other than my weight, I gained a lot of weight, and I gotta go back for a second hernia surgery. I went to see a doctor and I made an appointment. But he says he wants to put a catheter in me. So then I looked it up. I said, you don't need a catheter. If you're out there, have you ever had a hernia surgery where they used a catheter? What the hell do you want to put a catheter in me for? Yeah, the risk of infection with a catheter, plus opens up all kind of problems. Who wants to deal with that? Plus, it's disgusting. I don't even want to think about that. Okay, give me a break here, man. You know, if I'm dying, okay, if I'm unconscious and I'm dying, okay, you can put a catheter halfway in. If that doesn't save my life, they'll let me die. I don't want to deal with it. Okay, and then this other one wants me to get a colon colostomy scan with a telescope up my ass. I don't think I'm doing that either, pal. Okay, but what do you call it? If you're out there and you've had a hernia surgery where they used a catheter, I want to hear from you, okay? If you think that's normal, because I did some Googling, and you know me, I'm not an Ian Carroll, okay? I know if I would go to him, he would know all about. I think he would know a lot more about those telescopes up the ass than he would about a catheter. But that's just me, because it seems like that whole crew over there with Candace Owens and her husband and Erica Kirk there and her husband, it seems there's a pattern going on with that bunch. Okay, and what's going on up there? Uranus is the astronomy situation. All right, guys, and this is the kind of stuff that always gets me in trouble. I always get these emails that says, "Oh, Ed, you know, you're so funny, Uranus." And I said, "What are you talking about? I don't remember saying that." Don't remind me. Okay, another thing too we're going to be working on too is I got a really good editor to be doing some video editing and TikToks and stuff like that, taking old episodes, and we have some real gold in these old episodes that we can promote, just tiny TikToks that should go super viral. I got some stuff that nobody has. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Coming up after this will be Jeremy Kuzmarov, Covert Action Magazine, about his book about political assassinations. After that is the legendary Dave Emery. And then in Patreon, we have our Shane Cashman. You can find him about his book about good villains, okay? Good Nazis, I guess you might call them. And then tomorrow I'm taping with Epstein Survivor with some really gold information, really good stuff. You know, she's all over the news, all over the place right now. So it's a good get for me there. And you know, it's like all this stuff. And it's just amazing how many of these people I reach out to them. They already know who I am and the stuff I'm doing. They only know like 10%. And you know, how would do all these other guys get all over the news as experts? You know, and these authorities with hundreds of thousands of Twitter followers and stuff. You know, and who are they? What have they ever done? Nothing. You know, it's a mystery. Maybe it's the Mossad. I think the Mossad is doing it. What do you think? I think it might be the Mossad, Israeli spies killing, elevating people on Twitter, and that's what's going on there. Okay, guys, I almost feel like I keep going for another hour, but let's get out of here. Good night. I'm so tired, I haven't slept a wink. I'm so tired, my mind is on the blink. I wonder, should I get up and fix myself a drink? No, 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 I'm so
so tired, I don't know what to do. I'm so tired, my mind is set on you. I wonder, should I call you? But I know what you would do. You'd say, I'm putting you on, but it's no joke. It's doing me harm, you know I can't sleep. I can't stop my brain, you know it's 3 weeks. I'm going insane, you know I give you everything I've got for a little peace of mind. I'm so tired, I'm feeling so upset. Although I'm so tired, I'll have another cigarette and curse the Walter Raleigh. He was such a stupid get. You'd say, putting you on, but it's no joke. It's doing me harm, you know I can't sleep. I can't stop my brain, you know it's 3 weeks. I'm going insane, you know I give you everything I've got for a little peace of mind. I give you everything I've got for a little peace of mind. I give you everything I've got for a little peace of mind.